You're listening to MinerTalk on demand exclusively on 600 ESPN El Paso. Stay up to date with MinerTalk by downloading the free 600 ESPN El Paso mobile app.
Along with Zay Galindo, Sal Monta is going to be joining us soon enough. And the Miners are now 1-3, facing the upcoming game against UNLV, which is an absolute must-win. We kind of figured tonight would go the way it went. We kind of figured Arizona would dominate UTEP. It's another Power 5 opponent, and it's another example of the Miners just going up against Goliath, as they are David. And unfortunately for the Miners, they have just not figured out how to be competitive in these games against Power 5 teams. And now the Miners will have to pick up the pieces and look ahead to what will be their most important game of the early season. We get started today. I want to give a big shout out to the Oscar Arieta Agency. They've got several locations around El Paso, from the east side off of Montwood all the way to Fabens. You can contact the Oscar Arieta Agency for home, auto, life, even business commercial insurance. That's the Oscar Arieta Agency at 915-400-6000. We are here. It is a late night. I've got the hoarse voice. Thank you to everybody who came out at the district. I know that we had some streaming issues out there, but nonetheless, a big shout out to the district. They hosted us. They helped us with a wonderful celebration for this UTEP game. We got a chance to see former Miner Jadrian Taylor. How about that? Big shout out to him. And also former Miner Ray Flores was in the house as well. So we had some former Miner players well represented. Daylon Williams, the former defensive tackle, he also showed up as well. Other Miner fans, George stopped by. Got a chance to see Diego, got a chance to see Noah, got a chance to see Luke. So really appreciate everybody stopping by. It was a late night out at the district, but we got it done, and we are here. We are live. MinerTalk here, presented by the Oscar Arieta Agency. Our telephone number on the show, 915-505-6009. Just getting things started here today, and welcome in all our podcast listening audience as well. I think tonight might be one of those where a lot of people listen to us after the fact. They're going to listen to us on demand because it's a late night, and I think a lot of people, unfortunately for UTEP, checked out pretty early in this one. We'll dive into everything. There's a lot to get into from this one. I made a list of things and topics I want to hit on. I also made a list of things I want Zay to react to. But let's get it started right. Let's welcome on Zay Galindo, our co-host of the show. Zay, welcome aboard. You are here. It is late. We're almost 30 minutes past midnight. And it's a little earlier than I expected, I'll be honest with you. I thought we'd be on by like 1 o'clock instead of 12:30. We're on a little bit earlier. How's everything going, man? What did you think about this game?
This game was it was interesting. It's not a game that I wanted to overreact to, but I think I ended up overreacting. You know, there was definitely some times where I was a little puzzled by some of the play calls, some of the decisions from UTEP, but overall it was just a disappointing game from the offense. I think the defense played all right. They really lived to that bend, don't break, that style of play. Because there was definitely some drives where I thought Arizona was going to punch this one in and really blow it wide open. But UTEP was able to stay, within about 20 points for around the whole game, which is not really impressive, but it's not bad.
Giovanni Gardier scored UTEP's only touchdown in this one. In garbage time, granted. Kevin Hurley, backup quarterback, throws a touchdown to him. And that's like the late reaction. That's when you know it's been a late night, Zay, when fans are screaming for Kevin Hurley to be the starting quarterback for the Miners. What do you think of that overreaction and some garbage time touchdowns from somebody that we haven't heard a lot about, Giovanni Gardier? How about that?
Yeah, it was really cool to see him getting in the game, seeing both of those guys getting in the game, getting their first real playing time, and it was nice to see them let loose Kevin Hurley. We've never seen Kevin Hurley really let loose. He gave a couple handoffs in that FIU game last year, but I'm really impressed by him, and this backup quarterback competition just got a little bit more interesting.
Okay, I like that. I like the way that you put that. Now, people are wondering already on social media, where has Kevin Hurley been all year? Well, I'll give you a perfect answer to that question. He's been hurt. He has tried to work his way back from injury right now, and he is trying to get to a better level of where he can play extended minutes for the Miners as that backup role, even play more in practice, which he hasn't practiced as much during the end of fall camp and then starting off in the season. So Kevin Hurley easing himself back into the mix, and he is trying to vie for that backup quarterback spot. Jake McNamara took some garbage time snaps last week, and then this week it's Kevin Hurley, who Dana Dimmel, he hinted at it this week. He said, hey, he's close to being healthy, and we got a chance to see Kevin Hurley in garbage time. But let's go back to the real stuff. Let's go back to the meat of this, Zay, and let's talk a little bit about the bad, because UTEP gets the garbage time touchdown, but really 3 points is all that they had to show offensively. By the way, run game was awful today. Under 50 yards rushing today, and the Miners attempted 26 rush attempts. That's very disappointing on that rushing end. UTEP was top 50 in the country going into this game for their rushing offense as a team. And for them to have that kind of showing, that's really disappointing. Just unable to get the run game going. Deion Hankins, 9 carries, 34 yards. He led them today on the ground, but Mike Franklin goes to the locker room. He gets injured in this one with a leg injury. That's not a good sign. Torrance Burgess was kind of an all-around guy for the Miners, so he played a little in the receiving game, showed what he could do in the run game, but could not get any momentum, Zay, in the run game, and that's disappointing for the Miners.
Yeah, I think it all started up front. I don't think that offensive line got the push that they really, they're used to getting, and even with that, I just don't think they were overpowered in the trenches today. I think Arizona's defensive line really controlled this game from the start all the way into the finish, and just a really disappointing start to the year for that UTEP offensive line.
So I want to get back to the offensive line, because I asked this question last week, and Dana Dimmel gave me a Dana Dimmel answer, and he said, hey, look, you're looking at this wrong. The offensive line have been proud of what it's done so far. Actually, let's just talk about it right now, because I've been disappointed, man. 4 games into the season, I know they're 1-3, and I know they've played 2 Power 5 teams that by default should push the pack and push the UTEP offensive line in a bad way. But at the same time, I want to see a little bit more from their offensive line, and that is just establishing a ground game. I thought they established a ground presence in the Northwestern game in the first half, and then where have they been since? We haven't seen them for 3 quarters straight now. Offensive line, to me, Zay, disappointing. I look at the sack numbers. Dana Dimmel talked about it this week, says that that's a little skewed, says that RPOs are being counted as sacks as well, but still, I put that on the offensive line, man. They should be a lot better than this, knowing that this is a veteran group led by guys like Stephen Hubbard, Zuri Henry, Andrew Mayer, Elijah Klein. Those are veteran guys, eh? There's no excuse right there for those guys to be struggling the way that they are.
Yeah, I'm really disappointed, especially the run blocking. I think that has been the most disappointing part of this whole not this whole ordeal of a season to start to it, but I just, I think the pass blocking, it's been all right. The run blocking just hasn't been what we expected it to be. They're not getting the push that you want them to be getting. Outside of that incarnate word game, this run game has been shut down, and that's really disappointing, especially, when you have guys like Deion Hankins, Torrance Burgess, and Mike Franklin behind what's supposed to be a good offensive line. And it was disappointing. It was disappointing from the start when they played against Jacksonville State, and they did not get the push that we all expected them to get. And like I said, outside of that incarnate word game, it's been very disappointing in my eyes.
I think that the incarnate word game also is one of those anomalies right now, because you should push past an FCS team if you're an offensive line and defensive line. And they wore them out in that game. And we saw a crisp run game in that one, incarnate word. Maybe it's a home and away thing, but what we have learned, Zay, take what you want from these 3 games on the road: Jacksonville State, Northwestern, and Arizona. Miners are 0-3 to start the year on the road, and that just is what it is. So they're going to have to try to get road wins in October. They play at Florida International, That's their first game in October. Then they play at Sam Houston State. That's their last game of October on the road, and sandwiched in between is a New Mexico State game. So, look, I expected them to lose this game at Arizona. I didn't expect them to dazzle me. I expected more from their offense, though, and that's where I'm, still very disappointed right now, 4 games into the season.
Yeah, this game, it doesn't look that bad on paper, right? If somebody were to just be scrolling through ESPN and say, hey, they only beat them by 21 points, 31-10, it's not really what you would expect. But watching this game, it was just so frustrating at times, watching this offense get a couple of first downs, and then I don't know what happens. Around midfield, UTEP could not get past that, I'd say from their own 45 to Arizona's 45. That was a tough range for UTEP, and it was, like I said, it was frustrating to watch, and that needs to be fixed, especially for that UNLV game.
So I thought going into this game that the first half would be competitive. I thought both sides would show good competition, and that's what we saw. But again, frustrations offensively. So defense looked sharp early on into this game. We'll talk about the first half right now. The Miners had to punt from their own 48, then they punted from the Arizona 46 after a Kobe Hilton forced fumble that put the Miners in a good position. They couldn't do anything offensively off that, and they had to punt inside the Arizona 46-yard line. Then on another drive, the Miners punt from the Arizona 49. I just didn't like the play calling when they approached midfield, Zay. It seems like the Miners are waiting for that play. Maybe it's on second down instead of third down, because third down, you kind of know what they're going to do. It's going to be a run play. It's like a 3rd and 2 play, 3rd and 4. They're going to try to run it, and they get stuffed. It's too predictable right now. And I think these coaches like when UTEP's in a midfield situation like that because they can predict what play is going to be called.
Yeah, and I was really disappointed with the aggressiveness. I thought, this is a game that you have virtually nothing to lose, right?
Nothing to lose.
You have nothing to lose, and you're punting all the time at midfield. I mean, I would have loved to see them be a little bit more aggressive on 4th downs, especially, some of those drives, they're really 4th and short. Anything within 4th and 5 around midfield, I think UTEP should have at least, rolled the dice on a couple of those.
Oh, 100%. I mean, come on, give me a Gavin Hardison pass. I would be cool with that. I mean, Arizona's going to score, right? They're going to get points up anyways, right? Whether it's from starting at their own 46, or if it's UTEP's 46, whatever, they're going to score points. It doesn't matter. So why not take some chances like you're saying? Why not on 4th down try to attempt to pass and be aggressive in those situations just to get points on the board? UTEP has zero identity to try to score the ball on offense, and I know Gavin Hardison was frustrated today. I know there were a lot of drop passes by his receivers, but at the same time, the run game didn't get going. They have no identity on offense still, 4 games into the season.
Yeah, they really don't, and the drop passes, I mean, that was really bad today. I think there was about 4 or 5 that were just, unacceptable. You have to catch those balls. Gavin Hardison, I don't think he had a bad game at all. I think it wasn't great, not at all either, but it wasn't like, he was horrible. He put a couple of those throws on the money, and they were just dropped. And that can happen. Stuff like that can happen. And maybe it's excused in this game because there was probably no chance you were going to win. But next week when you're playing against a team that you have to win at home, that cannot happen.
Oh, man. I can't wait to get into the UNLV preview. Sal Montes will join us as soon as the UTEP football broadcast ends. We are just getting started here on the show. Our telephone number, 915-505-6009. We're also available everywhere on social media. We got a lot of tweets to get to as well. We got posts to get to. And we've got some more storylines that I want to hit on throughout today's show here on MinerTalk. Thanks for everybody staying up late with us here on the show. Already getting a lot on social media right now. We'll get to all of that here in just a little bit. Let's go back to what I was kind of talking about chronologically in the first half before we move on from this. After those punts that I talked about for UTEP, they punt from their own 48, from the Arizona 46 and the Arizona 49 in consecutive order. After that, Arizona scores. They go up 7-0. UTEP responds. A Torrance Burgess 51-yard catch reception got them all the way inside Arizona territory, and they weren't able to convert. They had to settle for a field goal, weren't able to convert deep inside Wildcat territory. And again, I'm happy that UTEP got their first field goal made from Buzz Flabiano, but I'm disappointed that they weren't able to get 7 points on the board there. I feel like, UTEP scores there, they tie the game 7-7. The game is kind of in flux, and this is like late second quarter. So instead, they give it back to Arizona. Arizona scores on their next drive right before half, and they go up 14-3 right before half, and that can't happen in the future for the Miners. So again, bad end of the first half, and we've seen that way too many times by the Miners.
Yeah, I want to go back to that field goal drive, and it was just really disappointing after Torrance Burgess Jr. got into that position. They got UTEP into the red zone, or maybe just outside, into the red zone, and the play calling there, I just was not a fan of. It was a incomplete pass from Gavin Hardison. On second down, it was a first down run for 1 yard from Torrance Burgess Jr. That got him nowhere. And then you have an offsides, and Gavin Hardison decides to dump it off to Mike Franklin. I was really disappointed in that.
Hated that.
You have a free play, take a shot to the end zone, and you end up settling for a field goal. It was good to see him, Buzz Flabiano, make a field goal, his first of his that's a sign of more to come. But, I was just really not a fan of that decision-making down the stretch in that drive.
But then in the third quarter, the offensive woes continued for the Miners. It was actually as if Arizona adjusted even more against the Miners. They open up with a quick 3-and-out that lasted less than 90 seconds. A 3-and-out that gave them 6 yards. Then Arizona gets the ball back. They get a field goal out of their next drive. They're up 17-7. Still not out of reach, technically, right? I mean, UTEP could technically put up some points at this point and then get back on the board. UTEP has one first down on their next drive. Then they punt it away from their own 41. Arizona gets the ball back. They score quick. Under 3 minutes, they score a touchdown, and now this one's pretty much out of reach. It goes 24-3, and then the Miners on their next drive, a quick 3-and-out that lasted under 30 seconds. 3 straight incompletions by quarterback Gavin Hardison, and that was it. I mean, UTEP's just playing catch-up from there. Arizona is able to do whatever they want offensively. The defense started to break a little bit in the second half, and most notably in the third quarter. By the way, third quarter for the Miners specifically, Zay, you're not going to like this one. When you look at their total yards in the third quarter alone, 32 yards on 13 plays. Very disappointing. I mean, you talk about urgency in the third quarter. Talk about getting into halftime with halftime adjustments. There was 0 actually made, and Miners suffered from that as a result. So, just didn't, again, going to your point about urgency, didn't like that coming out of the half by the Miners.
Yeah, and in the second half, this was just a really rough game to watch. Arizona in the first half, they had 333 yards of total offense. UTEP in this whole game only had 332. So, just that stat tells you how this game must have went. It was really frustrating to watch. I keep saying frustrating because that's what it was.
Yes,
it was tough to watch this football team down the stretch. Their offensive drives, they were playing. There was no creativity. There was nothing, you could say, okay, you can build on that for next week. You can build on that for next week. And obviously you have that touchdown towards the end of the game, but that's from 2 backup guys that chances are aren't going to see the field next week. So it's like you don't have much to build on, and that's something that you look for in these types of games.
Hey, our telephone number, 915-505-6009. I know it's late. We got more on social media than we do over the phones tonight so far. But to your point, Zay, I mean, you can look at all the splits and use that word frustrating to describe UTEP's offense. 49 rushing yards, 283 through the air, and Gavin Hardison was 15 for 31, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and a 48% completion percentage for Gavin Hardison. The turnover margin, that was a key going into this one. I just wanted UTEP to do better in the turnover margin. Well, they did have one on their side. It was a fumble. It wasn't really costly. It happened late in the game when this one was pretty much out of reach. And I do like the forced fumble by the defense, but they weren't able to get any points out of it. So what good is a turnover defensively that you can force on your side if you don't get any points out of it? What good is that turnover?
It's wasted opportunities. That's what it is. And, when your defense gives you something like that to work with and you do nothing with it, I mean, I'm pretty sure that's pretty deflating for the guys on the defensive end, right?
Yes.
You see that you just did something huge for your offense. It could be a momentum shifter, and UTEP did nothing with that. I mean, that's gotta hurt.
Yes, I agree with you on that. And then, I mean, the game was out of reach. You put Kevin Hurley in, you get his chance to see what he can do, and fans were excited about him. But, I mean, that was garbage time. Every quarterback's going to look really good in garbage time because it's just a lot of soft coverage. It's not a lot of in-depth coverage on the defensive side, and they just let, on offense, you can get away with a lot. So let's go to social media, then we'll hit a break, then we'll hopefully get Sal Montes here in just a little bit off the broadcast, and we'll continue with comments. It's going to be a shorter show today here on MinerTalk, but we will preview what's ahead for UNLV. We will give a Conference USA outlook. I've got a long point that I want to make about this UTEP team in general, and then I want to talk a little bit more when it comes to this Miner group going into a must-win game next Saturday against UNLV. More storylines to come, but let's go to social media. This is coming from Raul Frescas. Why does Coach Dimmel insist on play calling himself? He says he has a lot of success in the past, but never here at UTEP. Let Coach Scotty O'Hara handle the play calling and see if things turn around a bit, at least to end on a positive note. Malcolm at Malcolm Kayan. This season is over. The offense is absolutely terrible. Rip City Trades sends us this. Those receivers look good. What the hell was that offense? Hashtag MinerTalk. He's talking about the garbage time. Giovanni I can't even say his name, man. Giovanni Gardier. Giovanni Gardier. I said it earlier. I'm not going to say it again. You're going to have to remind me every time I throw it your way. I love that. I love the fact that he's getting a lot of love. And why not, man? I mean, get the guys some playing time. Ezell Jolly got playing time tonight. A true freshman for the Miners. He was running nice. He actually had some nice breakaway runs. I mean, look, when you're needing something on a spark offensively, maybe you throw Ezell Jolly out there, but is it worth burning his red shirt, Zay?
Who knows? I mean, I don't think it is. I think he's a guy with tons of potential, and when you have a running back room, when you have three running backs that can do the same thing, I don't think it's worth it. His development is something that I think UTEP is going to take their time with. Try not to rush him out there, but hey, you never know.
You never know. Callaway sends us this. Hurley should be the starter. Joe John at UTEP Mineto. It's good to see Dana Dimmel smiling along with Jacob Cowing. Hashtag MinerTalk. A former Miner gets the win. Yeah, I don't know if a lot of Miner fans are thrilled about Jacob Cowing having a great game tonight. 10 catches, 84 receiving yards, a touchdown. Makes it look easy, Zay. He's a effortless player. He's effortless when he runs routes. And, he had to do it to his former team in UTEP, right?
Yeah, Arizona made it a point to get him the ball today. I think they ran him a couple of screens. I think UTEP overall didn't do too bad covering Jacob Cowing, but obviously he still had a pretty good game.
Let's keep it moving on social media. UTEP Mineto also sent us the UNLV Vanderbilt score. We'll get into that in just a little bit, but UNLV won 40-37. Joe Chacon, maybe ask the offensive coordinator. Oh, wait, you have to talk to Dana Dimmel. Talking about that. This is from Rip City Trades. The offense is worse now that Dana Dimmel is more involved, and this is as good as it's going to get. They lose key players next season. Hashtag MinerTalk. Let's do it. I want to get into that. I want to get into the 10 starters that UTEP will lose next year. They are going to lose 10 starters next year, and I made a list about this, and it's really troubling when you put it all together. We'll do that. We'll also talk about the guys who are eligible to grad transfer next season as well. Let's do this. Let's take a timeout right now. When we come back, more of MinerTalk as we continue, presented by the Oscar Arieta Agency. More in a moment right here on 600 ESPN El Paso. All right, welcome back. MinerTalk continues. We are presented by the Oscar Arieta Agency along with UTEP Zay. Sal Montes coming up in just a little bit. We got a lot to talk about. Arizona defeats UTEP 31-10. If you'd like to talk about it with us, 915-505-6009. Hoarse voice by yours truly. I apologize. Been a long night. We are here with you. We are ready to continue with you. And let's continue to read more posts coming our way. 600 ESPN El Paso online and hashtag MinerTalk wherever you are on social media. This is coming from Herman Flores. Same old garbage from Dana Dimmel. Can he stop calling plays now? Hashtag fire Dimmel. Garrett at Yancey1389. This game was chalked up as a loss from the minute the schedule came out, so no surprises here. I'm with you on that. The offense is unwatchable now. 7 quarters without a touchdown, and after tonight, UTEP is in the bottom 10 in the country in points per game. Dimmel's refusal to let go will be his undoing. The scoring per game is awful, Zay. I mean, 10 points tonight, not getting a touchdown at all. I mean, I'm not counting the last one. The Giovanni Gardier, I love the name. I love this guy, man. He needs to play more. I remember hearing about him preseason, and I was thinking to myself, this guy will never take a snap. We're going to get more from Amari White. We're going to get more from Kyle McNamara, Marcus Bellin, but they've had injuries to their deep wide receiver corp, and as a result, Giovanni Gardier, he gets a chance today and probably will be redshirted this season, but he's the only one who scored a touchdown today off a Kevin Hurley throw. I don't anticipate seeing either of them in extended play this season, and if we do, I think something bad happened. Let's just put it that way. But to the point about scoring, that's something they've got to figure out. I don't know how they will. Maybe they won't. Maybe that's something that they won't figure out all year, and that could be their ultimate demise for this season.
It could be because if, like I said, I don't want to take too much away from this game, but if the offense just lacks that spark that they need, they haven't had this whole season.
Right.
If they lack this spark throughout the whole season, I mean, it's gonna be a tough year. Right?
Yeah, it's gonna be a long ride, that's for sure. Our telephone number 915-505-6009, and to that point, Zay, I mean, it's going to be one of those long seasons where everybody will be frustrated. We use the word frustrated in this one, even though this is not a game to overreact. Even though this is not one afterward where fans should say, "Hey, fire Dana Dimmel." That should not happen. But at the same time, you should hold this offense accountable for what it's doing or not doing in this case, and they are not having any success right now scoring the football. Our telephone number 915-505-6009, 600 ESPN El Paso, online and everywhere, 600ESPNElPaso.com as well. Hey, we had a question right before the break talking about, this is actually like a limited time with these starters. Like, a lot of these guys are seniors. They're not going to be back. Well, how about this? UTEP will have, they actually have 10 starters who are graduating next year. Gavin Hardison, Tyron Smith, Tyrese Knight, Tavita Tafuna, Keenan Stewart, Stephen Hubbard, Zuri Henry, Andrew Mayer, Elijah Klein, and Zach Fryer. A lot of those guys I named were on offense, but what that means is next year you're going to get a very inexperienced line, you're going to have inexperience at the quarterback position, and you're going to have more skill position players where you're going to lack experience. So I don't even want to look to next year, Zay, because actually next year is, to me, a rebuild. It's not, hey, let's pick this up, let's go 8-4 next year, let's go 7-5, let's get a bowl win. No, next year to me looks like a rebuild. So what is this year starting off to?
Well, see, that's the issue. I mean, it doesn't have to be a rebuild. You have the transfer portal. You can bring in proven Division I football players onto your team for a quick, injection of life to your program. But as we know, that's not the way that Dana Dimmel and his staff like to go, building their team. They prioritize JUCO guys who they can do that too, but like we're seeing right now, it doesn't always work out. And it's just, what is this year? That stat right there makes this year even more disappointing, because this was the year. They had to win this year, because if you don't, like you said, you're going to lose 10 guys and maybe about 12 guys that have played before, that played meaningful snaps. You're going to lose them, and who knows what will happen.
Yeah, that's why I want to spend a lot of time on UNLV, because 1-3 is, not something where they can they can crawl out of 1-3 right now, knowing that 2 of those 3 opponents were Power 5 teams, and knowing that they still have 2 games at home to close out the month of September. They could be 3-3 to finish out September, sure, but they haven't really proven that they could get to that point, and so that's why I'm a little worried going into next week against UNLV for this UTEP football team. Let's go to the phones right now, 915-505-6009. Josh is hanging with us late. Josh, welcome aboard. Good morning. What's happening, man?
Yeah, how y'all doing? So, I'm a little frustrated. And the reason why I say that is because I traveled all the way from El Paso here to Tucson to watch our Miners play.
Oh, Josh, I'm sorry. Oh, man. There were a good Miner faithful represented. I saw the orange.
Yeah, they were there, but the problem is I'm getting sick and tired of the same old song and dance, same excuses over and over. It's starting to get to a point where I'm about to go watch, I'm about to go to Coronado High School until Coronado will suit up, play against UTEP. I guarantee you Coronado will beat UTEP. Point blank.
Well, how many points is UTEP going to score? That's my worry.
Probably like 3.
It's not looking good, Josh. The offense isn't looking good. All right, let me throw it at you here. What is it that impressed you today? The little that actually impressed you today. You were there in person. I wasn't. I wish I was. What impressed you by the Miners, if anything, today?
The only thing that really impressed me about the Miners here in Tucson was their defense. Their defense was stellar. It's just the offense. They just can't support the defense to actually make answers for them. So, it's really frustrating.
Okay, where do your frustrations start on offense? Like, where do you put the finger of blame?
I would say probably the coaching staff. I think Dana Dimble, he needs to give up the whole play calling situation, period. I think he needs to give it up and let Scotty O'Hara, call the plays. That's what he's paid for, is to actually call the plays.
So, Josh, are you coming back to El Paso tonight, or are you staying the night and then coming back tomorrow?
No, I'm staying the night, and I'm actually coming back tomorrow.
All right, thank goodness, man. You don't have to have a horrible drive home or anything like that. So we're good. We're good there. Hey, I'm happy that you at least made the trip. I'm sorry about the effort tonight or lack thereof. Defense was there. Defense put him in the right position in the first half, but the offense just holds him back, and that's what happened in the second half of this game.
Yes, sir.
All right, Josh. Hey, appreciate it, man. Thanks for weighing in on the show. Our telephone number, if you'd like to follow that, call up 915-505-6009. That's our telephone number to get into the program. We're also presented by the Oscar Arieta Agency. Want to give them a big shout out. They're going to be joining us the next UTEP MinerTalk watch party. It's actually going to be a tailgate party, so a pregame show before UTEP kicks off against UNLV next Saturday at the district. Oscar Arieta himself, he'll be stopping by, and he will have some really, really cool prizes. In fact, he's going to be donating a mystery box prize that's going to be a lot of fun. So you don't want to miss it. It'll be at the district next Saturday, the 23rd, ahead of UNLV as the Miners take on the Rebels next week. Also want to give a big shout out to our awards on the show. Wind Supply El Paso brings us the Hot Hand Award, and New Start Homes brings us the Drive of the Game. We'll get to both of those later on here on MinerTalk. Let's keep things moving. 915-505-6009. Zay, aside from those players who I talked to you about who are gone next year, here are the players who are eligible to be a grad transfer next year, okay? Dion Hankins, number 1, eligible to be a grad transfer. Justin Mayers, Mikel Broussard, the safety, wide receiver Kelly Akari, safety A.J. Odoms, and pass rusher Mo Westmoreland. Zay, I mean, they could lose a lot of guys. What this year could tell us is maybe it's not what we all thought, but if it wasn't what we all thought, including the coaching staff, including the players, including the media members who were bullish on this team preseason, if it doesn't go the way that they want, we're talking about disaster territory. And when you're talking about a disaster, then on the back end of a disaster is a rebuild. And with a rebuild comes new personnel, new players, young players, and a whole new start. So are you prepared for that if we get to that point?
Well, if we get to that point, Miner fans probably will not be happy at all. I don't think UTEP fans, would be very much impressed with. If we're going to say it's a rebuild, let's say this takes 2 years for UTEP to get back into contending for, a possible bowl appearance. That would mean let's assume UTEP goes under 500. That's 3 straight years going under 500 and 1 year going over 500, going 7-6. I think this fan base would be totally out. I think, it would just be a really rough place for UTEP football as a whole. So, I don't even want to think about that.
So are you saying out on this coaching staff or out on this program, out on the regime, out on the players? Like, where are you going out on?
Well, I don't know if I'm going out on this coaching staff, but it'll really depend on the moves they make in the offseason. If this season does not go to plan and they're still here in the offseason, then there's going to have to be drastic changes. They're going to have to utilize the transfer portal. They're going to have to change the way that they do things because obviously 6 years in, and if they're in that position, it obviously did not work.
So you bring up a really good point because the reality is UTEP does not have a lot of money as an athletic department. So a lot of people out there say fire Dimmel, fire Dimmel, fire Dimmel, and they don't even know what kind of dollar figure that would cost the university to do a move like that. And we haven't even got, out of September. So let's slow our roll on all of this kind of stuff. I am not a fan of mid-season firings, but I am somebody who likes to forecast and look into the future. So if we talk about a season in which is not not a good one for the Miners. Fans are upset. All of this, like you said, after the season, drastic changes need to be made. Well, if this coaching staff does stay intact and does stay on staff, then maybe they do really aggressively pursue the transfer portal for immediate fixes. They get a lot of immediate fixes through junior college transfer year after year. They get those guys who are going to come in mid-year and they're going to try to make an impact. Like, look, A.J. Odoms, he's a transfer portal guy. That's an example. Now, you might just have to get like 6 or 7 of those guys, and that's harder to do than, UTEP would maybe think, and they don't typically do it. So they're going to get out of their comfort zone. They're going to have to recruit better than they've ever had before and try to build a roster that's not just good, but can win, and win right away.
Yeah, and I love the transfer portal. I think it works. Texas State just dropped 77 points earlier today. I mean, their whole roster is full of transfers. There's so much talent in the transfer portal, and, I'm not going to shy away from it. Some of these guys are damaged goods. You're taking a shot on a guy who did not work out at another program. That's scary. That can be a scary thing to do, but you got to do it. You can't be playing it safe, especially at UTEP. If you try and play it safe, you're going to get consistent mediocre results, and I think fans are tired of mediocrity.
They are. I mean, they're beyond tired of mediocrity. They want to at least be competitive in these games against Power Fives, and I don't think that's a reality at this point. Barry Odom is the head coach over at UNLV. Do we start it? Let's start talking about this Rebels roster and team. I mean, dude, they beat Vanderbilt today. They were down 17-0 at home. They ended up winning 40-37. Ugh. I'm gonna say it right now, Zay. I'm calling a loss. I'm calling a loss. 34-24. UNLV beats UTEP on Saturday of next week. I'm calling it right now.
It'll be interesting. I mean, UNLV, that's a complete opposite to UTEP right now, the way that they're playing, the way that program has gone. Last year, Marcus Arroyo, he helped turn around that program. He was leading a long-term rebuild. I think they went 5-7, and everybody thought, hey, UNLV, they're on the come-up. They had a good season, but UNLV said, nope. Not good enough. They're not going to tolerate 5-7, and they fired Marcus Arroyo. They went on and got Odom, who coached in the SEC. He's a proven guy. They're committed to winning, and obviously it showed today, beating a Power 5 team.
And they did it impressively, man. I mean, I know Vanderbilt scored 20 points in the fourth quarter to rally back in this game, but UNLV won the game. And that's a sign to me of a good team. I mean, you beat a SEC team regardless of the opponent at home when you're down 17-0 to start things off. You're not rattled in that case. UTEP's down 17-0. You know what they're doing? They're packing their bags. It's over.
Yeah, UTEP's down 17-0. I mean, Gavin Hardison might attempt over 50 passes. I mean,
yes.
This is UTEP can't go down early in this one. UNLV, they're going to be all the emotions. They're going to be excited to play this game. They're going to be ready. They're tasting winning, and they're going in licking their chops, looking at a UTEP team that has struggled this whole season, especially offensively. I mean, UTEP's going to have to be on their A game. They're going to have to be on their A game.
So let me dial it back because I rushed this too quickly, and I just want to say this. UNLV next week is an absolute must-win for the Miners. They are 1-3 right now. UTEP is. They have high expectations this year to get to a bowl game or to get to 7 wins, to get to 6 wins, whatever it is. Just get to that point to where you can be bowl eligible and play some postseason football with all of these veteran players, all of these older players and seniors that we just mentioned. UNLV is that must-win absolute game for UTEP. Next Saturday, they've got to do it at home. It has to happen for this team because there's no way you can tell me this team is going to go 1-4 to the real stretch of Conference USA play and win 6 games. There's no way that actually happens, in my opinion. They'll be back against the wall just like they were last year, and when they had opportunities to win early season games, they failed on those opportunities, and as a result, that could cost them a trip to a bowl game, cost them any chance to get to 6 wins, and actually can derail their entire season.
Yeah, because now that we look at it, half of these wins that we penciled in for UTEP, these New Mexico State, Florida International, Sam Houston, those are all 3 really good teams that, come to find out. So it doesn't, we thought it was going to get so much easier for UTEP. They could just cruise in October. It's going to get tough. I mean, Florida International beat North Texas. They beat UConn on the road today. They're a good team. They're 3-1. And, Louisiana Tech in a couple weeks. They lost to North Texas today, but that doesn't mean they're a bad team.
They still put up 37 points, and it was disappointing. They were mad that they lost that game against North Texas.
They have a high-powered offense. So, this season is not going to get any easier. UNLV, that's a tough team. But so is half of Conference USA. So, I'm looking at this schedule and I'm saying, are we even going to get to 4 wins? Are we even going to get to 5 wins? I mean, how is UTEP how is it going to pan out? And I think we're going to find out, this Saturday.
So if UTEP asks themselves that question, how are they going to get to 4 wins? Yeah, I think that's a really tough question to answer here, September 17th, right now, as it stands. And isn't it crazy, Zay, that we're talking about an absolute must-win September 23rd of the season? There's still a lot of football to play, but it's a must-win for this UTEP football team.
I mean, I think that should just tell you how much of a disaster this beginning of the season has been. And, I think disaster might be a heavy word for it. It's been disappointing. You did get 2 Power 5 teams, but one of those teams is Northwestern, who got killed by Duke today. Northwestern, we all know what happened with that program. You lose to an FBS newcomer in Jacksonville State, and it's all around disappointing. And, we all, in the back of my mind, I definitely thought, hey, there's a chance that UTEP does start 1-3. But, I didn't want to accept that. I didn't think there's no way. But here we are.
Here we are. You're exactly right. So I've been around the block with this UTEP football team. I am just going to flag this UNLV game as kind of very similar to the Army home game that they had in 2017. And what happened in 2017? Unfortunately, UTEP went 0-12 that year. I don't see that. I don't see a 1-11 season. I don't see a 2-10 season. I don't see a 3-9 season. But what I'm saying is, I felt like their loss to Army in 2017 derailed them because they put so much stock in that game. It was a non-conference game, their last one of the season before the Conference USA part of the season, and then that team just went into a spiral. If you lose these games, what I'm saying is it could really derail your season. And 1-4, those guys looking at the into a mirror on that football team, they're going to look at themselves and say, "What is going on right now? How do we improve this?" And is this season over? Are we done? And should we look on to next season, or should I look on to what's ahead for me here personally?
Yeah, but that's correct. But here's the bright side. If you win this game, your whole season's back on track. You know, you have hope. You know, you're looking at that Louisiana Tech game saying, we're at home. We're good at home. We just beat UNLV at home. We can easily do this. You have confidence going into, you know, Conference USA, and that's what makes this game so big.
That's why it's a must-win. That's why it's an absolute must-win. As we welcome on our co-host of the show, Sal Montes, fresh off the broadcast. Sal, we're talking UNLV. We're already looking ahead. We've already pushed past this game, and I know you have as well. We were watching Colorado State instead of the end of this UTEP Arizona game, admittedly. Right. So, but we are all looking at UNLV next week because 1-4 is a lot different than 2-3 on the season, and that will be the difference of what will happen next week for UTEP. Either way, either they'll be 1-4 going into the real part of the Conference USA play, or they're going to be 2-3 with a real opportunity to get to 6 wins.
Yeah, and obviously looking ahead, right, after starting the season 1-2, and now it's the team being 1-3, do you trust this team to win 5 out of the next 8 games to have a chance even at a bowl game? And that's really where it gets real. And I know you all are talking about, hey, these are winnable games. That's very true, but glass half full is saying that. Glass half empty is saying, hey, we've seen them lose 17-14 to Jacksonville State. We've seen them, be duds on offense, only 17 combined points on the road against Northwestern and Arizona. And to that point, Adrian, I want to bring up something off air last week. Before the Northwestern game, we made a comparison like, you know what, Northwestern is like the Vanderbilt of the Big Ten. Well, what happens? UNLV goes out and beats Vanderbilt. Not only that, they drop 40. So what I'm getting at, though, is when it comes to UNLV, yes, they have a crappy loss against Michigan as well, 35-7. But they've shown that they can go out there and score 2 games where they have 40-plus points. Miners, let me go back to their schedule here. The most points they've scored is 28, and that's against Incarnate Word. That's very troubling when you have combined 17 plus 14, a combined 31 points between Jacksonville State, Northwestern, and Arizona. They just can't score. So, yeah, if they win, everything's great. But in my opinion, they haven't shown anything to kind of put me in that mindset of, hey, they have a really good chance of doing it.
No, they haven't given anybody, that they haven't warranted you to believe in them, especially offensively. Defensively, they're going to hang with everybody, and I think they're going to show up next week defensively, so it could be a slugfest. UNLV, UTEP. My early prediction, I gave it already, Sal.
What was it?
UNLV 34, UTEP 24. I have the Rebels winning next week, man. I have UTEP going 1-4 on the season. I have not been shown anything by this offense to tell me that they're going to put up points and win that game at home next week against UNLV. What about you?
Yeah, it's tough because defensively, I think they can hang around up to a certain extent. Once they're on the field for more drives than they should be, I mean, at that point, it's like, can you really ask for more from them? I don't think that's fair. So if you're the offense, you got to help your defense out, especially when you have Tyron Smith coming back. You have the speed of Akari, who was just disappointing today, big time. Guys got to help out, and Hardison, I think today wasn't half bad. I think he went out there and held his own. And finally, when Hardison, displays, I want to say efficiency, but not necessarily that, displays that he can manage the offense out there, guys kind of let down on that part too. So they're just too inconsistent.
Do you pick UNLV or you pick UTEP? Early prediction.
I pick UNLV, and I think it's going to be something like, 45-17.
Wow.
At this rate, from what we've seen.
Yeah.
I mean, no disrespect.
I mean, seriously, right?
I mean, what have we seen this year?
Oh, man. It's a reality that I think that we could see next week. Zay, are you going to be the only one who picks UTEP among us? Yes, you're picking UTEP. Go ahead. Do it.
I mean, okay. Going into this game, you're hoping that you don't come out with more questions than answers, and you came out with a whole lot of more questions if you're on UTEP's end, right? Especially on the defensive end, there's a lot of missed tackles, this and the third. You can clean that stuff up. You're much better at home. Your backs are against the wall. UTEP's going to win this game. This is a classic UTEP win game. I mean,
Okay.
It's Boise State. Okay. I mean, that's what it is. It's Boise State. They're going to make drastic changes. Something's got to give. I'm going to take UTEP. I'd say maybe 24-20. I think it's going to be a low-scoring affair. Somewhat similar to that Louisiana Tech game 2 years ago. I don't think you're going to hold
the bowl clincher. Yeah,
I don't think you're going to hold UNLV to 3 points, but I also don't think you're going to go out there and let them run all over you. So give me UTEP in that one.
Oh man, I like it. Say with optimism for UTEP football. Hey, if they win that game though, he's right. I mean, I do think that they can get some momentum under their belt with the games that are coming ahead. And, I'm not trying to hit the panic button yet. UNLV, if they lose that one, I'm hitting the panic button. I'm not just hitting that. I'm smashing the panic button repeatedly. And red flags have been thrown around right now. So that's where I'm at. I'm at walking through red flags left and right. I see all the red flags everywhere. Yeah. And I see all the red flags. And I'm walking through them left and right.
And you know what, too? We say that UNLV is a big game, which it is. I mean, they're coming off of, let me just go back to their schedule here. The win over Vanderbilt, they dropped 30. They allowed 30. They dropped 40, but they allowed 37. Either way, though, they've shown that they can score. But, Adrian, this is a theme that you have to relive just about every home game the rest of the way because UNLV, big. Next week, Louisiana Tech, big because you want to keep your season on track.
Right.
Then guess what? In October, they host New Mexico State. Who else do they host on the next home game? Western Kentucky. And then the powerhouse, Liberty, is their last home game. So, yeah, they win at home, but they're playing really good teams to close out their home schedule, that final 3-game stretch when it comes to homestands.
Forget November, man. If you go to November, if you're UTEP and you're back against the wall with 6 losses under your belt and you're going to November thinking, we can run the table, forget that. Just just hit the end of the season at that point. Throw in the backups. Let's start into next year at that point.
And you know what, too? To that point, forget November because that road trip is out in Middle Tennessee, a place that they haven't been that successful in conference play.
I don't like them at all in that place. No way whatsoever. I'm so passionate I get mad at this because of where we were to start the season. I mean, what happened, guys? We're here.
You know what's so funny?
We're 1-3.
Is before the Jacksonville State game that week, you had to leave early. I think it was on Thursday. You had to go to the first football game for Football Friday night, and Steve and I were talking, and he's like, "Sal, looking at this, what if they go 4-0?" And we're live on air, and I'm like, if they go 4-0, it's going to be a packed house. It's going to be crazy for UNLV. Who are we to say that and think that?
Wow.
Not necessarily think that they would do it, but entertain the idea of it.
Right. Man. I mean, come on. This is UTEP we're talking about. Zay?
I get what you're saying, but I mean, are you really foolish for thinking that? Like, think about it this way. On paper, there's no reason UTEP can't be 3-1 right now. They should be 3-1 right now. That's the issue. That's the disappointment. That's why every fan, everybody's so critical of this team because 1-3 at this point with all the experience, everything on UTEP's side. The only thing that isn't is history, and unfortunately, history's getting the better of them right now.
Yeah, if they were 1-3 and they scored or averaged 24 points a game, I'd actually feel better than what I do right now because they're just not scoring points offensively, and I think that's going to hold them back to points that we haven't seen since like the Kyle Oxley days where they struggled to score points then. So let's see what happens now. Our telephone number 915-505-6009. We are going to read a couple posts. We are going to take a break, and then we're going to give out some awards, and we're going to look to next week and give our final thoughts. We're going to wrap this one up. It's a late night. I didn't expect a lot. I expected this show to be really looking ahead to next week, and that's going to be the big one. We'll hang with you late next week, but this week is going to be a shorter one. Rip City trades. An injured quarterback comes in and makes the offense look instantly better. Hashtag MinerTalk. Tristan Pence with a couple good tweets. Another disappointing game by UTEP. The offense is putrid, and it's not Hardison's fault. But on the bright side, the special teams showed great improvement this week, and the defense played with pretty good effort tonight. The season isn't over, and UTEP has the talent to win every game in their remaining schedule. The next 2 games are extremely important. Win them both, and the season can turn around. Lose them both, and it's time for Jim Center to start looking for a new coach. Ooh, man. Tristan Pence with the big one. Yeah, if they lose both, 1-5 going into October, forget about it, Sal.
No, big time. Because
we're talking about maybe 8 losses, 9 losses at that point.
Yeah, and the fan base is not too keen, not too high on Coach Dimmel. I mean, we see it on social media just about after every game. There's a lot that, and obviously it's how people take it, but there's a lot that they don't like. They don't like what they see when it comes to the results. They don't like what they see with the play calling. And he mentioned in the presser this week how we wouldn't relinquish the play calling duties.
That's right.
And just the inefficiencies that's going on with this offense. Like, you're the top guy. You've been there year 6, and the lack of production on offense has shown for majority of your tenure while, you're supposedly calling these plays 3 OCs in. That's really, really tough to overlook.
Callaway 007 sends us this. This was just depressing to watch. The offense was an absolute snooze fest. Not optimistic for UNLV. The seat is getting hotter for Dana Dimmel. That's coming from Callaway 007. Let's go to Robert before we go to our break. Robert, good morning. What's happening, man? Thanks for joining us at 1 a.m.
Great. No, thank you guys for staying up. So I was just, we went to the game last weekend in Chicago with, Northwestern, and it was kind of a disappointment.
Oh, Robert, I know you. You're a big Miner fan. You are a huge supporter. You tune in to us, and you send us a lot of good messages a lot of different times. So I hear you, man. I think a lot of people are just as frustrated as you are.
Well, I try. It's kind of hard sometimes, but we gotta keep going, and we gotta support these guys. But I was just wondering what you guys think the attendance will be this coming week.
Oh, good question.
What can UTEP do to, bolster the attendance? Because, that turns into dollars. That turns into, a more successful program. And I just, I like to see, the fans in the stands.
Good question, Robert. Hey, I appreciate the phone call, man. Hey, real quick, your early prediction for UNLV UTEP before we let you go.
30-24 UTEP.
Oh, okay. You side with Zay. All right, I like it. Okay, good stuff, Robert. Hey, I appreciate the phone call, man. Thanks for weighing in. 915-505-6009 if you'd like to follow up Robert here on the show. Hey, I'll tell you guys this. If we're speculating attendance right now, it's going to have to be a lot of those pre-sale tickets.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you to Mayor Oscar Leeser for buying tickets for city employees. He bought those as that was reported last week. The first game had 30,000 plus. I don't think UTEP will get to that point. 25,000, does that sound right, guys? 25,000 for Saturday? If we're talking about I think 5,000 tickets purchased by the mayor. I think he was going to purchase some other ones as well. What do we think about that? 25,000, over, under, or push? What do you guys think?
I think 25,000 is about right.
Okay.
And I say this because I underestimated the attendance on the game versus Incarnate Word. After
I was like
loss.
22,000.
I was thinking somewhere around that, but what was it? Something like 29?
Oh, it was 30. It was 30.
30. There we go. So I think it'll be less than the game versus Incarnate Word, but those pre-sales, man, they do big damage.
They do.
That's what's up.
They do a good job on all the pre-sale. And to that point, it's going to be interesting because they could also buy the tickets, but it's also about being there and going to the actual game. So that's another part about it. They've got to give away those tickets, but people actually have to show up in order for them to actually capitalize it. Zay, let me ask you the same question. Over under for attendance right now, 25,000. We said the same over under in the first game. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Sal here. Those pre-sales, they do damage, and I think you're going to get your normal 15,000 that are going to show up if you're 1-11 or 11-1.
Right.
And I think you get an extra 10,000 in. I think El Pasoans will support, and especially if it's free. So, shout out Mayor Leeser.
Okay, I like that. I'm gonna go over 25,000, just slightly over. So maybe like 27,000, something like that. Hey, let's go to Johnny from the West Side. He's gonna join us before we hit our break. Johnny, good morning. What's happening, man? Thanks for joining us at almost 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah, what's going on, guys?
Hey, we're hanging in, Johnny.
I drove down there too, and I knew they were going to lose. Come on, they're playing a decent team. I'm not going to say Arizona is great, but they're decent. What do you think, man? When you guys being honest, Demo wins 2-3 games. I personally think he should be gone. That's my opinion. I just think this team is just. I mean, I see them and they're not good. I mean, I'm being honest. I mean, the truth hurts, guys. But
so
let's be honest, you know.
All right, we've talked about this show, and instead of reiterating what we said, let me ask you this, Johnny. Let's say you're a UTEP and you don't have a lot of money to begin with, and Dana Dimel has a buyout next year. Do you give him one more year, knowing that his contract will expire after next year? And then, start the search firm next year? Or do you do it now and then pay that fee, knowing that you don't really have that much money, but it's worth it if it goes as south as it could?
Well, he's been here long enough, man. It's tough for him to go, man. I mean, come on, guys. Look at this team. Look at it for years, how it's been. And let's be honest, man. There's a lot of teams that would be like this, winning 2 or 3, they'd be gone right now.
Oh yeah, we've talked about that. Yeah, there's. Hey, look at UNLV, the team that they're going to play. We just said that. Zay was saying they went to a bowl game last year, qualified for it, and that still wasn't good enough.
Yeah, and I saw UNLV beat Vanderbilt. I don't think UTEP has a chance next week. I'm going to tell you right now, they do not have a chance. They're going to. I mean, they'll hang with them. Don't get me wrong, but. Oh, they'll lose by about my prediction by a couple of touchdowns. And I predicted 30. I told my friend before the game a couple of days. I said 31 to 14 in Arizona, and I was pretty close.
Oh yeah, you were.
Think, some of these guys that did you see that tackling that they were tackling? I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was like, this is third grade tackling. Seriously, I mean, come on, man. You grab the guy and 4 guys are just running on the guy. I mean, he was like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe I'm blind, man. But
no, you're spot on, man. Actually, I was thinking that since the Incarnate Word game, including that game, they just hadn't been as sharp tackling. It kind of goes back to 2021. I thought that year, even though they were a bowl team, that was the one area that they kind of struggled with. Just simple tackling and wrapping up and being more efficient there. Hey, I appreciate the phone call, Johnny. I appreciate you weighing in, and thanks for calling us, even though it was a tough one for you. But guys, that's one of the things that continues to be a reoccurring theme. I'll throw it to you, Zay. Tackling for the Miners right now. We can give the defense their praise, but we can still hold them accountable, and I think that's the one area that they're hurting right now in.
Yeah, and I want to say tackling has only been, maybe in that second level, but it's everywhere. The offensive line, they're not wrapping up. The linebackers, I really was not impressed with James Neal. Tyrese Knight, he did his thing as always. It wasn't an amazing game like we're used to seeing, but it wasn't bad at all. I think the safeties were a little disappointing. I know Kobe Hilton did force that fumble, but outside of that, I think, the secondary as a whole, they didn't do much. They weren't as physical as they usually were. Outside of that Jacksonville State game, I don't think the corners have done much. And it's just really disappointing tackling-wise, and it's totally correct on that.
Let's continue on the phones right now, 915-505-6009. If you'd like to weigh in, give us a call now. Now is the time to do it. We're going to wrap things up after our break with some awards, but let's go to Charlie Dodger. He's going to join us next after Johnny, 915-505-6009. Charlie, it's good to hear from you, my man. What's going on?
Bro, it's another day in the UTEP. Being a UTEP fan,
I hear you, man.
I'm always optimistic, even though I know the history. But I'm just gonna chime in on this one thing. There was a play where UTEP got a penalty, or it was on Arizona, and it could have been 4th and 1. Instead, they took the penalty, and it was 3rd and 4. Now, for me, I'm like, this is a Power 5 team, even though it's Arizona, whatever. But it's a P5 team. It could have been 4th and 1. You could run it with Hankins, whatever, or pin them deep. And they took the penalty, which I get it. Because it gives you 5 yards. It made it to 3rd and 4. And it gives you 5 yards, and you get an extra play. But I was like, you know what? Take the 4th and 1 and go for it. We still kicked the field goal and we got points out of it. But I'm like, couldn't you have just said, you know what? You know, if you're demo and say, you know what, guys, let's just freaking go for it. Like, you know, I'm declining the penalty. I'm taking the 11 yards that we gained on that play or whatever it was. It would have been 4th and 1. And go for it. I'd like to know your opinion. Some of these guys are like, no, that's the right. Some of the people I was watching the game with were like, no, that's the right decision. And I'm like, but it's 4th and 1. Like, it's 1 yard to get the first down instead of 4 yards, and which makes it a passing down. And it isn't 2-down territory because you do kick the field goal. But I'm like, at 4th and 1, go for it. Like, I don't know.
Trolley, I felt like there were several instances in the game where I felt like that. I mean, yeah, you bring up a really good point, but early in the game, UTEP punts from their own 48, they punt from the Arizona 46, and they punt from the Arizona 49 on 3 consecutive drives to start the game off. So you talk about that specific one. Yeah, I mean, go. I'm with you on that. Be more aggressive. This is Arizona. You have to try to get to a lead at halftime, not just hang in with them. 7-7, 7-3, 14-3. We've seen that before. That recipe doesn't work. That success, it's not successful. It's unsuccessful. It was the Northwestern recipe. What did you learn from Northwestern? Nothing. Nothing was learned. Nothing was learned from last week. And what we saw was more from last week. What did they do last week? They didn't take advantage of opportunities when they crossed into enemy territory. They punted it away, try to be way too conservative. What do they do tonight? They don't take the penalty. They just kick the field goal. They settle for that. They're okay being down 7-3 instead of let's get on the board and let's tie this game up, knowing that Arizona's going to score in the future in this game, knowing that Arizona's going to put points on the board.
You don't have the privilege of settling for 3 points.
Well said.
You don't have that luxury. You know what I mean? These are games that we know you can compete, whether it be for a quarter, 2 quarters. Gives a damn if it's even 4 quarters. Fans have seen that before. They want actual production, not just, good football here and there. They want a solid game, all the way through. And this is just something they haven't seen.
Yeah, I like that. Where's the luxury that you're trying to bring to the table? You don't have the luxury to do that as a defense, even though you're a good defense. You're not a great defense. You're a good defense. Zay, your thoughts?
Yeah, those play calls, that really just proves to me that, UTEP really wasn't playing to win. They're playing to make this one, not look ugly. You have that opportunity. You're 4th and 1. Do you not have trust in your offensive line? And if that's the case, I get it. Your offensive line struggled, but I mean, still, I don't. It was really disappointing, the lack of aggressiveness. Like I mentioned earlier, what do you have to lose, man? What do you have to lose? You probably weren't going to beat this team anyway. You might as well go down swinging. And they did. They took the strikeout. Just disappointing.
Very conservative, ultra conservative approach, and I didn't like it. Hey, let's take a timeout right now. When we come back, more with MinerTalk. If you want to get in, now is the time to do it. We are winding things down. 915-505-6009 as MinerTalk continues, presented by the Oscar Arieta Agency. More in a moment here as we continue on 600 ESPN El Paso. Back. MinerTalk continues right now. 915-505-6009. We're presented by the Oscar Arieta Agency. Check them out online. RiseUp915.com for game day giveaways. That's the Oscar Arieta Agency. We got awards to get to, guys. Let's do it right now. And after that, we'll turn the page, look over to next week, and read some final posts that came our way as well. Let's start off with our hot hand of the game. This is presented by Wind Supply El Paso, our great friends and partners at Wind Supply El Paso. Guys, it was hard to find a shining player on UTEP today. You could look at Kobe Hilton. He had a forced fumble, 9 tackles. You could look at Maurice Mo Westmoreland. He had a sack, a tackle for loss, and 3 total tackles. But let's give it to Torrance Burgess Jr., the one bright spot of that offense that was disgraceful today. 3 catches, 78 receiving yards. He also had 8 carries, 22 rushing yards. I just thought he was explosive. He's a newcomer. He's coming onto the scene in a nice way, and he was the only guy who I thought that was worthy of this honor of being our hot hand of the game, and that is brought to you by Wind Supply El Paso. Hey, El Paso's starting to get out of the triple digits, but you might still need to fend off the El Paso heat. Stay cool with Master Cool. Wind Supply is an official distributor of Master Cool evaporative coolers, and they don't want you to sweat it out when you wait for the temperature outside to cool off. Each Master Cool system is priced lower than the box stores. To find your nearest Master Cool dealer, visit a Find a Dealer tab at WindSupplyElPaso.com. That is a Find a Dealer tab at WindSupplyElPaso.com. Zay, are you good with Torrance Burgess Jr. being hot hand of the game?
Yeah, I mean, the running game, it really wasn't going, but he can do it all. I mean, he proved how versatile he is. He had a couple of receptions. They went for, obviously he had that one big play, but still, he proved he can do it all. He's a good receiving back. He's a good slashing back. He just gets to the tackles really well. He's a really fun player to watch, and I'm excited to see how they use him next week against UNLV.
All right, and that is our Wind Supply El Paso hot hand of the game. Let's go over to our drive of the game. This is brought to you by New Start Homes. And, man, what drive do we... Let's give the garbage time touchdown drive as the drive of the game. Kevin Hurley instigated this drive. He was the backup quarterback who stepped in. Giovanni Gardier. I said it right, Zay. I didn't need your help. He was the one who caught the touchdown pass. This one was from 25 yards out. It prompted people on social media to call for Kevin Hurley to be the starting quarterback of the UTEP Miners. Kevin Hurley has never hurled a pass for the Miners until today, and in any kind of relevant game. And he threw a touchdown pass to Diablo Valley College transfer's finest, Giovanni Gardier. Who had Giovanni Gardier scoring a touchdown this year? Before Amari White, before Marcus Bellin, before Jeremiah Ballard, who had that?
Nobody.
Man,
he did.
He did. And that is our New Start Homes drive of the game. Hey, New Start Homes can help you out whether you need a mobile home, a tiny home to add to your backyard, or you just want to check out their affordable builds. They start at just $75 per square foot. Check them out. They've got a location out in El Paso and in Las Cruces. Check out New Start Homes online at newstarthomes.net. Guys, we turn the page. We look over to next week. UNLV, I have them losing. Sal has them losing. Zay has them winning. Zay, give me 3 keys that you want to see from the Miners this week in order to prepare themselves for the Rebels of UNLV.
Yeah, we're going to start off with probably the most obvious one. Get your run game back on track. That is what you live and die by. You have 3 really good running backs. Hopefully Mike Franklin's okay because he's a pretty big piece of this offense. And but even without him, Torrance Burgess Jr., Deion Hankins, even Azale Jolly, if you have to go to him, those are 3 really good backs. You need your offensive line to show up, run block. Another one for me, win the turnover margin. I mean, they were able to force a turnover today. They had a late turnover from Mike Franklin, the fumble. But I need to see some secondary, some Torrey Richardson. I need Torrey Richardson to step up, get yourself an interception. And last but not least, I mean, just jump out to an early lead. Don't play from behind. Try to avoid going down early and stay composed. So those are my 3.
All right, Sal, you like those 3?
I really like them. Definitely things that they gotta hit on. For me, I think one of them is field position. For the first time today, they had a drive where they started in Arizona territory. It was the fumble, but we all know what happened after that. 3 more plays and they punted. But make it easier on yourself by where you start from. That's number 1. Number 2 is score points. I know it's easy to say, hey, score. No, we know that they can move the ball at times, get the first downs, but take advantage of the missed opportunities by scoring points. You're at home. And then number 3, I think it's the obvious one. Wrap up, man. You gotta seal the deal when it comes to those tackles. Don't let those second efforts look effortless for the other team.
So 2 other things. I want to see Gavin Hardison be good against UNLV, like we kind of saw today. I mean, he had some good throws, but I want to see his wide receivers catch the balls instead of today. A lot of drops in this one. On the flip side, I want to see Buzz Flabiano carry in his momentum. He's made a field goal. Guys,
yeah.
What's the buzz? They didn't move on from him, huh? They stuck with their guy. Buzz Flabiano makes a 25-yard field goal. Easy chip in. What do you think, Zay?
I think buy stock now. I think they're really they're committed to his development. Obviously, you're not going to just put out a freshman if you don't believe in him. Obviously, they think he's the kicker of their future, and hopefully, his confidence is up after missing the first two.
Poncho checks in. I'm not happy I called it, but #MinerTalk, and he called. UTEP is going to go 1-3 to start the season. Noah at the Noah G. Great to be repping out in Arizona. Next week quickly turns into the most important game of the season. #MinerTalk. Good job, Noah. I like the photo you took. Manny David at Garcia25. Looking at the rest of the schedule, I think overall 3-9 at best. My prediction: UNLV 38, UTEP 10. Sigh. Texan till I die at UTEP Milkman. Well, you can't blame this one on Hardison. He was hitting them in the hands, and they were just dropping the balls. Don't know what they're going to do, but something needs to be done, and quickly. Joe Chacon. We didn't think he was going to check in tonight. UTEP has all the weapons to win a game, but until coaching can put it all together, we're going to hurt. A few play calls right doesn't make up for all the wrong calls. #MinerTalk. #reppin' from Colorado now. #time for bed. I'm here. I'm with you, man. I'm ready for bed. #this show is why I'm awake right now. #love y'all. All right. I like it. Let's go to a couple other posts that just came in. Bring back Minor Rush. Ask Coach Canales how it worked for him under Dana Dimmel. Or the next guy. Dimmel is ass. Plain and simple. Let your coaches coach. Man, harsh from Bring Back Minor Rush. Last one. My name is Jeff. Why do the Miners do that today? I love forever the Miners still. I believe they're going to win the next game. Man, my name is Jeff is on one tonight, huh?
Guess he loves the Miners still. He's all in, man.
Man, he's drinking the orange Kool-Aid, that's for sure. Respect to him.
with some blue ice cubes.
That's right. Guys, final thoughts on this one. UTEP loses 31-10 against Arizona. Final thoughts, Zay?
Yeah, like I said earlier, in games like this, you want to come out with more answers and questions. Obviously, that didn't happen today. You have much more questions than answers, and they're going to need to fix it. Your backs are against the wall. You started off 1-3 last year. You started off 1-3 this year. Something's got to give, and this is one of the most important games, if not the most important game of the Dana Dimmel era.
Yeah, I mean, when I was listening to the post-game show, Coach Dimmel had mentioned that these games are going to make them better, for the season. Playing back-to-back Power 5 teams is going to, get them ready for the season. But it's hard to look at those two games and see what did we do good so we can replicate it and feel good about going into Conference USA play. So that doesn't really match up there. So that's what I think, man. Just another disappointing performance. They played well for some spots, but once it gets tough, you don't want to see a team crack, and that's what happened today.
All I'm going to say is, to wrap things up, I've seen disaster seasons happen before, and I said it before, I'm walking around red flags everywhere. We see them everywhere right now. And this UTEP football team is going to have to prove me wrong. They're going to have to prove fans wrong. They're going to have to win fans back. And it starts next Saturday against UNLV. Hey, we'll do it then. We will have an extended edition of Minor Talk for sure in that one. But for tonight, thank you so much for everybody listening. Thanks to everybody who came out at the District West. For Zay Galindo, for Sal Montes, I'm Adrian Broadus signing off and saying so long here on Minor Talk, presented by the Oscar IDF Agency here on 600 ESPN El Paso.